We'll call the
It's up to
meeting to
you.
order at 6:02 p.m. since we now have a quorum present. And I don't know if Paul, I think, was going to try to jump on, but I don't think he did. But maybe he will from up in Maine. Thanks everybody for making time during this busy holiday season. I just wanted to first order of business is to approve the minutes from October 17th, 2022.
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I guess we have to do a roll call, right? Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I blew this, guys.
Well, you also have to read the.
I got to read that. Yeah, I got to
right?
go back and read the statement. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Jennifer was being very quiet and kind to see if you got it yourself.
Yeah.
I was actually reading an email.
Oh, there you go. So now the truth comes out. Huh? The truth comes out. Let me see. It was October 3rd that I have a. Oh God, I gotta find the statement. No, that's not it.
Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it in one of these meetings here. I just don't know which one. September 26th, I think, was a. No, not there. Let's see, September 21st. I'm trying to be cognizant of Pete's time too.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, I saved it to one of these places. See, guys, I'm out of practice. That's what happens when we don't meet for a long time. Oh.
Obviously, we have to meet more often.
That's it. Exactly. Exactly. That would probably help. No, I'm not getting it. Oh, man.
You want me to read it for you, Chris? Or?
You got it? Yeah, if you've got it, Ray, that would be great.
Okay.
Great.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the West Boylston Finance Committee and Capital Investment Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the West Boylston website at www.westboylston.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen, watch, may do so in the following manner, and I don't think I need to read the rest.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. So now we'll go back to all presents. Chris Berglund present. Pete Murphy.
Present.
Mary Foley.
Present.
Ray Brickalt.
Christmas present.
Christmas. It's beautiful. And our guest, Jennifer Warren Diamond, our town administrator. All right. So we have a motion on the floor and a second for the minutes. Pete Murphy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mary Foley.
Yes.
All right,
Accept.
great. Ray Brickalt.
Aye.
And Chris Berglund, aye. So that's unanimous. Thank you all very much. All right. Back to the minutes. So one of the things that I put up on the Google Drive, I don't know if you all, I'm not sure you all got a chance to look at it or not, but after the town meeting, Article 4, that I kind of flagged on realizing that we needed to vote on that at town meeting or prior to town meeting, was the budget fix article. And Jennifer Warren Diamond, was our town administrator, was kind enough to provide me with explanations on all those transfers of the 138,000 plus. So that's there for your information. I think it's all pretty well explained. If you have any further questions, we can follow up with Jen at a later date. But I just want to make sure that everybody's there. Questions on that?
I'm looking at the shared Google Drive.
Yeah.
How is it listed right now?
Okay.
No, it's the December 19th folder. Sorry.
Yeah, it's in the December 19th folder.
I looked at the meeting agenda. I didn't see anything requiring.
It's not. We don't need a vote on it or anything. I just wanted it just for informational purposes because it's already been done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you find it, Ray?
I did.
Okay. All right. Good. Back to agenda. I just obviously you all saw that I circulated Jim Marinelli has now resigned, so we're down 3 positions in finance committee. So just reaching out if anybody has any idea or any neighbors, friends, colleagues that live in town that may be interested in joining us. We can certainly share Jim's very explicit resignation letter about what a great experience it's been for him. And I think we can all acknowledge that it's a great experience for all of us. It's just, again, trying to find people is a little bit of a challenge. Everybody's got a lot of things going, especially during these times of COVID, but keep that in mind because we're really at the point now where it's tough to get a quorum. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So there's a group of residents who have recently coalesced around one particular issue, but they're becoming very involved in town. And I anticipate that they will be present at a select board meeting in the month of January. So I can try to put a plug in there because it's a pretty active, engaged group already. And perhaps they might want to see how they could become more involved aside from just this interested, subject matter.
Gotcha.
I'm generally cautious about people that are one topic interests personally.
Well, no, it's a very educated group. They just kind of coalesce around this one subject. It's very concerning for their neighborhood, but there's a lot of very educated, well thought out persons in that group.
Yeah, and that might be the same group I'm thinking. I think one of the people in that group might be our former chair, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, but I'm not sure. Maybe Jen, you and I could talk offline, and I can, I'm happy to go to that meeting too if you want, just to tell people about the benefits of being on finance committee. So, but anyways, so that's one of the things. I guess I had that down towards the bottom, but I will just bring up and Jen, just for informational purposes. I mean, we have nothing of substance to discuss here, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware of what's been taking up a lot of your time of late, and a lot of the residents, and I think some of us are, but I'm not sure everyone is. But there's not one, not two, but 3 40B proposals.
Maybe 4.
Oh, maybe 4. Oh, good. Okay, maybe 4. All right. So, so three I'm aware of, maybe 4 that are. Is the 4th going to be coming before the select board for a LIP endorsement as well, or is that just?
If they decide to go that route.
Okay.
Yes, if they decide to build a 40B, they're looking for a LIP.
Okay. All right. Well, the 3 that I've been made aware of, are all LIP. I know Jennifer has been very involved in them. I mean, there have been several meetings. She's been involved in many more than I have. I've gone to a couple, but there's 2 on West Boylston Street, a 64 unit project with 2 10,000 square foot. It's a mixed use, 2 10,000 square foot commercial buildings down by Jake's restaurant. That's across from the Dunkin' Donuts, the Sovereign Bank, or not Santander Bank. And then there's 73 West Boylston Street, which backs up to the old McDonald's, the cannabis store. Right now, that's 40 units. And then the one that's attracted a good deal of attention as well is the 18 Malden Street, which is about 19 acres, and that's they're looking for 192 units on that property. So I don't know that it impacts us in any way at this point, other than if they go through, we'll have some additional tax revenue and
So
probably some additional.
So I think it's more
just
to let the finance committee know that things did not get off where I hoped they would be through the months of September and October, when I should have been able to kind of understand where things were and hit the ground running for the upcoming budget season. All of that has been derailed by these development projects. It's been a lot.
Yeah, so more to follow on that. But in the meantime, unless there's any questions on those at this point, I mean, we'll just move on. But I just wanted to throw that out and just let people know that.
Yeah, Chris, I had a question. So there's 4 projects. As far as the required percentages to have privileges versus not privileges under 40B to get to that 10% threshold, how many of these projects would it take to get over that 10% threshold? And how do you adjudicate that if they're all in process? Once we hit the 10%, can we shut off the others if we choose to?
No, to my understanding, we cannot. Go ahead, Jen. You can talk a little bit better. And what I guess one of the things I do is encourage everybody to go back to the December 13th select board meeting. It's on record. There's a tape on it at about the 2-hour, 1-minute point. There's a great discussion about that, Jen, and our town council, Carolyn Murray, really go into it. But Jen, fire away and answer Ray.
So it's a lawyer answer, Ray. It depends. So right now we're working off of 2010 census figures. With the 2010 census figures, we need 45 units. The 2020 census figures would state that we need 78 units. The 2020 census figures are expected to be in place for sometime in February, March. So it depends on a couple things. So the issuance of the comprehensive permit, so that's not the agreement from the select board to enter into a LIP, but that's once it's fully through the state and back to the ZBA. Once the ZBA issues a comprehensive permit, then we can petition the state to count those units for a period of 1 year on the SHI. So, for example, if the proposer of the development that was seeking 192 units, if they received a comprehensive permit first, then the ZBA could claim safe harbor. If the proposer of, and I'm going to use the number 78 because by the time any of these are before the ZBA, we'll be at the 2020 census figures, most likely, not the 45 from 2010. So either of the projects on West Boylston Street don't get us there on their own. So you could have one of those projects get a comprehensive permit, have the units be included on the SHI, the subsidized housing inventory, and then still have, depending on timing, the 192 unit coming forward. So there's a lot of timing. At any point, any of these developers can say to us that they are no longer interested in a LIP and that they want to go straight to the Department of Housing and Community Development for a comprehensive permit application, which bypasses the involvement of the select board and then goes straight to the DHCD. I mean, straight to the ZBA after they get through DHCD. So there's a lot of it depends in that answer. I don't know if that was helpful or more confusing. But.
It would presume I understand the processes better than I do. I mean, the simple numbers of whether we hit 10%, I understand, but when they have to go through the select board and when they can avoid the select board is entirely unclear to me.
Foreign. Okay, so there's two types of 40B projects. There's what we refer to as a friendly 40B. That's commonly referred to as a LIP project, local initiative project. So that's a friendly 40B. That's when they'd go first to the select board. Sometimes there's some agreements that are made with the select board, the type of which the ZBA could not enter into. There's also an unfriendly 40B, in air quotes again. Whether or not a developer goes the friendly route or the unfriendly route, their next step is to the state, the DHCD. They will do some level of review there at the state level. Then depending on whether it's a friendly 40B, the review process by the state is less onerous on the developer, but it's still a process. Once the state has concluded, they issue the developer what's called a project eligibility letter. The project eligibility letter gives the town 30 days to respond, and then the project goes before the ZBA. The ZBA is the entity which issues a comprehensive permit to the developer, whether it's a friendly 40B or an unfriendly 40B. And it's the issuance of that comprehensive permit after which those units can be counted under subsidized.
Hey, Mary, can I ask you Mary, can I ask you to mute a little bit? Thanks.
Sure, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, let me find it.
Is that good, Ray? Yeah.
So
no, yeah.
What do the timelines look like for those various processes?
So a developer can go to get they need a letter from the select board if they're looking to do a LIP. That can take anywhere from one select board meeting to a year's worth of select board meetings. Again, though, the developer can decide throughout that process that they no longer want to pursue a friendly 40B and go directly to the state. The state, several months to get through DHCD. And then the ZBA has a time limit of 180 days in which to act.
Okay.
So, and just to augment that a little bit, I mean, not that it's anything binding by any stretch, but for informational purposes, the Affordable Housing Trust has been involved, and is the select board is looking for their endorsement on the first 3 projects that have come before. Actually, the third one's about to come before the trust on Wednesday evening. So that will, and then they will, I guess, machinate all that great information and decide whether to endorse project 1, project 2, project 3, project 2 and 3, project 1, 2 and 3, whatever permutation of all those projects as LIP projects to the select board. Now, whether the select board, I mean, they obviously work on their own, but that's kind of where those 3 are right now. Still very, very preliminary, very preliminary.
At what point in time will we have an assessment of the utility infrastructure and any cost to the town to support any one of the 3? When would we know
that would likely be that would be before the ZBA. When it's before the ZBA.
Will the select board have to take a position before they have that information?
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a lot
because the plans are only Sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead, Jenna. Yeah.
The plans, whenever a developer is before the select board, the plans are extremely conceptual. So all of the engineering is done after they know which direction they're going, whether they're going for a lip or an unfriendly 40B. So that type of in-depth analysis doesn't occur. Depending on the project, there's some more particular traffic impacts from certain projects, they're just obvious on their face that there's more of a traffic impact from some of these projects than others. So the select board may weigh in after seeing traffic studies. But the real, I don't want to speak too much out of turn here. The real analysis happens before the ZBA.
Right.
Okay. And does the town have a right to reject based on the costs to the town?
No.
No, it's usually just public safety is really the only thing that we can move on.
We learned that in the previous one, right? That out in Oakdale.
Correct. That
Right.
was unfriendly.
Unfriendly, and in spite of all the efforts, including the local residents hiring a whole fleet of lawyers, they absolutely had no impact.
Right. So it's the peril of being less than 10%. It's a really flawed regulation in my mind. But
from a FinCom standpoint, we have really no role in this, right? We're not doing a thing.
In fairness, my comment is more personal than it was as a part of the FinCom.
Yeah, okay. I'm just
Well, you would have the new growth.
We'll have new growth.
Sure.
Yeah, and the other thing we may have is, again, if it's going to require us to hire additional policemen, fire, get another ambulance, and all those sort of things are questions that we can certainly ask and look at the financial ramifications of that. But we'll also look at the revenue portion too. Impact on schools. Would it have an impact on the schools? I mean, that's kind of a mixed discussion at this point, but it could be.
At this point. All right.
All right.
Yep. Moving right along.
Good. Thanks, Jen. Yeah. All right. So capital, there are some new forms. Again, I just floated them up there today. Sorry for the late on that. The one thing I will update everyone on is I did attend the school capital planning meeting back last, I think it was Wednesday evening. And they were the same, still culling through all of the Collier's projects. But one of the things that you'll notice that I put up was a grant process from the United States government, which I don't know, Jen, if you provided to them or not, but their biggest ask is for the steam boiler at Major Edwards. And I asked them what the status was on the, the Green Communities grant, how that was going, and they had no idea. Believe that must have fallen between the cracks between when Jen was hired and when Nancy left, because they thought that Nancy was handling that. And I think Roger said he mentioned something to Jim, who was the interim, and Jim didn't know anything about it. And I know I mentioned it to Jim too, and Jim thought Roger was working on it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just, it's like, I didn't get a lot of clarity out of it. But nonetheless, the project, which was estimated at $195,000 last spring when we looked at it, is now $255,000 plus architectural, and that they haven't bid out yet, but they estimate that to be somewhere in probably the $40,000 to $50,000 range for those pieces. But just the boiler itself through Royal Steam Heat, which was the same group that gave them the quote less than a year ago, has gone from $195,000 to $255,000. So Roger said he's putting together a submission to the folks in Washington on this opportunity that's, I guess it's a brand new grant program, the Energy Improvement grants for public schools. He's also, it's a $500,000 minimum is the grant amount. So one of the things he's doing is he's also grouping in some other asks that are in there, but he's not sure what the timeline is. And my understanding is they can't wait for a long horizon on this. They want to get this as quickly as possible. So it looks like we will be looking at something in the high $200,000 to $300,000 range for an ask from the CIB during this round from the schools.
This energy-based grant program is long-term, or do we know what the timeline looks like?
Don't know what the timeline looks like at all. This is just launched. I guess it's part of the Biden administration initiative, or, coming out of Congress and everything. So we don't know what the decision period is on it. I know he has to submit a conceptual plan by January, and then he has to have it supported with budgets and so forth, or cost estimates and everything by April. And whether it will be a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 12-month decision, nobody knows.
Is it the control system that does not work would be over 300K by itself. So
yep. I think
those are easily over 500.
Yeah, I think he's looking to throw that in as well. But he had also mentioned vans, electric vans and all that sort of stuff, because these would. So anyways, I guess, and shame on me maybe, because I thought this was all being, just moving through the process with Green Communities. At least we're going to get 100 grant, but apparently that's fallen off. But Jen, if you know
I
something.
could address that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do. So, so the Green Communities program, we were not eligible for the fall round. And I think that's where Nancy had planned to plug it in, was in the fall round.
Yep.
The reason why we were not eligible is we were not able to close out one of the items that was funded. There was a lot of back and forth between various departments on that particular item. So we are not eligible until the spring round. The Green Communities program in general tends to kind of shift whatever the cause du jour is on what they like to fund. For a long time, they were funding all those LED upgrades, right, and now they won't touch an LED project, right? Nancy was like one of the last people in the Commonwealth to get an LED project funded. They won't fund anything typically that is fossil fuel reliant anymore at all. Okay. So they did express some interest in funding the heat pump I don't know how they found out about it, but the library heat pump. So we need to have conversations with them in January about what they're looking to fund. If they would be interested in this project, it still may be Green Communities eligible. Okay,
all right. So we'll put that on the agenda for January then.
Yeah, when you say this project, Jen, you mean the library project or the school project?
School.
The school project is a fossil project, though. It's a fossil.
I know, but it's also, there's not a lot of alternatives. So I don't know if where there is an alternative for the library. I don't know if there's any flexibility. Like I said, the goalposts change a lot with Green Communities grant, so they could change again come January.
Okay. All right.
So we'll follow that in January. That would be good, because just to find out if there's any portion, which I think they're limited. Green Communities too is limited to 100,000, right? That's the most per project, I believe. Mm-hmm. But we can.
No, not yet. I don't think.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, we've funded more than that.
We have on one project.
Yeah, there's a certain point at which that cap kicks in, but we have not hit that yet.
Okay. So we'll keep on the school folks to tell them to keep moving forward for possibly a submission in the spring. Because now I just want to make sure we're clear too. Who does that? Is it you or is it Roger? It would be you. Okay, fine. So that's good to know. Perfect. Paul, thanks for joining us. I can see you're on there now. I just want to make sure that the record shows. Thank you for jumping in.
Yeah, Chris, if I might interject that, I think you said something in the email, but I'd love to have recorded for purposes of the meeting minutes, just the appreciation for Jim Marinelli's contribution over the years. It's nice to get those actually into the meeting minutes.
Absolutely. Yes. We do thank him for all of his good work. And I think we all vote to support that. I know we all vote to support that. So thanks, Ray, for bringing that up. That's great.
No issues.
Probably, well, certainly not, if we're good with that. I mean, certainly not last, but not least is meeting dates. And I guess I want to start to get some of those on the calendar. So I know some folks travel quite a bit. Some are still working, which is wow. But anyway,
Rub it in, Chris. Thanks a lot.
That's all right.
This is work, Chris.
This is where, yes. So I just want to know what best. I know this is a Monday night. Is that still good for everyone?
Monday's usually good for me. I prefer Mondays to Tuesdays myself, but I can do Wednesdays. So Monday, Wednesdays are probably better either for me.
Okay.
Mondays are preferred for me as well, but I can do most nights with enough advance notice.
How much is enough, Ray? Like more than 48 hours?
Couple weeks notice.
Couple weeks. Okay. All right. Paul, how about you?
Monday works usually.
Okay, good. Good. And Mary, I know can you? How are you?
I usually have a meeting the first Monday of the month, but other than that, Mondays are great.
Okay, so Mary, no first Monday. All right.
Let me go back and mute. Wait a minute.
No, that's all right. I like the crying though. I think that's very perfect for talking finance committee.
That was me. That wasn't the baby.
Oh, it was. Oh. All right. So what I'll do is I'll spare everybody for the next couple of weeks, but certainly looking towards I don't know how everybody's calendar looks, but if we look towards the beginning of January, I know that we didn't really get into discussion on the capital forms. Maybe we can get a little feedback going with Jen, but I think it doesn't sound like it's going to be a heavy season, but I think I know Ray, you had some comments that were spot on as far as articulating what the ongoing cost of these things are going to be. So Jen, I don't know if do we want to get into that at all tonight, or do we want to just save that for
Well, I did revise the form based on Ray's comments, and I added a line for operating costs. So that folks are thinking about it as they're requesting these items. I also added a field for if it is equipment replacement, the estimated surplus value of whatever they'll be disposing of. So I did add those two. I think the goal here, and Chris, you and I had talked briefly about it, but the timing was really short when I came on board, is that ultimately at some point I would like the town to work towards obtaining a GFOA, so Government Finance Officers Association designation for our budget. It's basically taking our budget process and documents and elevating them to a point that has national benchmarks for transparency and a really robust, good process. So without doing that heavy lift now, and with all the 40B projects, I'm glad that we didn't embark on this, Chris.
Yeah. Right.
This would be one component that we would have to kind of enhance what we were currently doing. So I took one of the best GFOA budget documents that I know of, and that's Northboro's. They've won the award for many, many years. And I basically stole their form. And then I took what our current capital planning policy was, and I'm just going to open it up here. So we had on the old form, under justification, some items such as replacement of essential item required by law, highly necessary, economically justified, or other. And what I did was take your policy and took the language right from your policy that you're supposed to be making your decisions on for justification. Mm-hmm. So to align the policy and the document better together. It would be my plan that this is a document that is placed online for the public to have eyes on, and they can certainly understand more about projects before they get to town meeting. And just like your current plans are, it becomes a living, breathing document, right? So we're anticipating that we're going to do something in FY26, and then perhaps, you know, either something shifts and there's something that becomes a higher priority, or there's something that becomes a lower priority. You know, we're going to shift that around. I did remove the overall priority that the department head would place on it of what that priority item is to them. I think that that was somewhat subjective and arbitrary when we're weighing one capital project that might be of extreme importance to one department, but then when you weigh them against all of the departments, despite it being so-and-so department's level 1 priority, on the whole, it's really down at like a 4 or 5. So I removed that. And then broke out further what, you know, to Ray's point, what the different components are of a project. So we're not just talking about construction. If we're doing a building, we want to be thinking about what is the furnishings, what are the operational costs, what's the contingency that we're going to build into this, so that we're building contingencies directly into projects with inflation, especially. And we know that it is already built in. It's very clear when we're looking at it that there is a increased cost added there.
Jen, thank you for that explanation. That's good. And one of the things I shot back to you, I know it was late, but just like, do we want these folks thinking about what if they don't get this asset? You know, what's the impact on, you know, do we care? I mean, do we want them elaborating on the impact of the, you know, their staffing, on the impact of their ability to complete, you know, their, you know, required jobs? I mean, that's
Chris, I'm going to drop off here.
Oh, you are. All right.
Hey, I'll follow up with you. Anything else happens, but sorry.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Yep,
Hi,
thanks.
Pete. Take care.
Okay.
So I think some of it was addressed under the justification.
Yeah.
That if it's eliminating a hazard to public health and safety, or it's supporting their adopted goals, plans, objectives, and policies. You know, I would hope that all of what, and it's a hope, but that all of what department heads are putting in here really aligns with the greater vision for their department, that we're not just doing capital planning in isolation, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess as I'm looking at this form a little more closely, I guess I'd like to step back and understand what your expectations are with this form. Do you expect one of these for every item that a given department would submit for capital funding?
Every item that's 20,000 or over.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Part of the difficulty we've had generally is that, and I put this in the email, the department heads tend to try to think logistically. They don't tend to think financially. As I look through this list, it's really substantially biased to two major projects. Feasibility study, design, land acquisition, and construction probably only apply to 5% of all of the capital requests we get. And the others are really kind of not on target. But when we go through the capital process every year, the information that we don't get is pretty regular. They don't tend to include prior year repair costs. They don't tend to include software costs. They don't tend to include a number of the things that I put on that list. At a conceptual level, the difference between those asks and what this form is looking for is one of scale. If most of the asks we're getting, for equipment, a vehicle,
a mower,
a mower.
Yeah.
The granularity that this form will give to making a decision is not really tuned to most of what we get requests for.
So do you want me to keep the form that you had then for this year? Because I think that this is actually a huge improvement. I think that decision-making can't ever be on a form, and that's why I responded to you that I think a lot does come from discussion. And I think that discussion is incredibly important. But I think that there's also, in looking at the capital form that you have created, there's also many, many things that should be on there that aren't. For example, we have a master plan that has expired 6 years ago. That's about a $30,000 to $50,000 job to update the master plan. That should be on a capital form. Now that's something that, I would probably put that for purposes of characterization under a feasibility study, because it's going to be very similar to a feasibility study or other. You don't have those documents on here. You don't have a web, this town, should maybe consider a website upgrade. We don't have that anywhere on a capital form. We have really old VoIP phones. We don't have those things on a capital form. We have a lot of trucks. We have a lot of mowers. And then we have things like police cruisers, which actually should not be included in capital. Police cruisers are not capital despite their cost, because their lifespan is too short, and that needs to get into the operating budget so that we have, the regular replacement of police vehicles.
Well, actually, those are in the operating budget.
Yeah, they are in the operating budget.
There were some in capital, I believe.
We track them, but they're in the operating budget.
Oh, maybe. Okay, so it's on tracking.
So I think,
Okay.
So I think, Jen, what we're talking here is like apples and oranges, because one of the things what you're looking for is a justification of each project. I think one of the things we've been trying to get for years is an inventory of assets. And assets can be a feasibility study. Assets can be, we don't have that. I mean, we have, and I provided you, I know you've seen that capital spreadsheet we have that tracks by department assets in the department, which is, we're absent a school component, for instance. Some of the more administrative components, like you mentioned, the plan that expired 5 years ago or whatever, that's not on there, but that's, we need kind of a gatekeeper to let's just list everything. I mean, one of the things, I was talking to Leslie about is maybe I just sit with Leslie and go through all the insured assets, but that really doesn't capture, for instance, your the town plan or whatever. I mean, it doesn't capture a feasibility study that needs to be done. So, I mean, that's probably, and I don't know how we do that. And maybe this is a starting point that we can do to kind of, okay, here's the list. And then the next piece is, well, who now maintains that list? Because we've been trying to do it, but with a, turnover in department heads and everything, all of a sudden that is a very living organism, that capital spreadsheet.
A complete overall of the process from soup to nuts.
Right.
I do have a quote on that, just so that you're understanding what type of a lift that is, and not to say that we shouldn't do it. It just is not going to be done for this budget cycle for sure.
Right. Oh, no, it won't be. No, I don't expect that.
Let me just let me just pull up the Collins Center. I got a quote from them. Because this is something that typically is not done in-house unless you have, you know, a $200 million operating budget and you have a CFO.
Right.
So the Andovers of the world can certainly do that.
So a quote for what specifically? I'm sorry, I missed something there.
To assist the community in doing exactly what you're asking them to do, to have a revised, robust process. So capital improvement plan proposal. I received this from the Collins Center out of UMass Boston. So it's to help the community develop a comprehensive multi-year capital improvement plan, conducting a capital needs assessment and a comprehensive 5-year capital plan, including a revised process. They were looking for that $28,000.
Yeah, was that driven by this capital process, or was that driven by the FISP? Is that
This quote?
Yeah. What was the
what was the rationale for obtaining the quote? So there was grant funding that was available through the Community Compact Grant Program. And in consultation with Leslie and Chris, we decided to not go forward with applying for that grant this year. I don't know if with the Healy administration, if there's going to be, it was a Baker Polito program. I don't know if there's going to be Community Compact going forward, but that was the reason that I obtained this quote.
Okay. So to the topic at hand, I just want to be really clear. I am entirely on board with modifying this form. And the comments you saw from me, basically, these are the things that aren't working very well right now. Unfortunately, most of those issues are smaller in scale than the new form would contemplate. So I'm not quite sure what to do with it. If you're looking for feedback, I'm happy to provide it, but
yeah, so I took some of the feedback that you gave and incorporated that. And I see that there were a lot of repeat questions. I think, you know, going forward into the capital planning process, we're at December 19th. We're already behind the 8 ball, right? So we can't completely overhaul the process at this point, in my opinion. At least I can't.
Sure.
So I think that perhaps developing a list of those questions that you know, tonight in January, because I'm going to start getting these back in the next couple of weeks, right? So whoever's got all theirs submitted first, they're up first. Let's just say it's DPW. DPW, if it's equipment replacement, you need to come prepared to answer to the Capital Investment Board when you meet with them the following questions. Be prepared to discuss those things. And I think that that's an entirely fair ask. And I think that there's a lot of times too that, you know, a department head might be thinking about what are the ongoing operational costs, and then you folks have some points that, oh, I didn't consider that. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. And it helps them to further understand.
Yep. No question. And I guess from our standpoint, and this is not going to happen within the next 6 months, certainly, but getting that inventory of capital projects, you know, and again, I think, you know, I know Ray put a lot of work in, the whole committee put a lot of work into to build that capital spreadsheet. Ray was especially, you know, it's not a bad tool for some kind of, you know, certainly on a 5-year forecast to give us some idea if the information's good. I mean, that's the thing. It seems to work pretty well. One of the challenges we've had is getting all the capital projects that you know, that again may not be a truck in the yard at you know, DPW or a a roof on a building, a town hall, whatever it might be. But if we can get all those, and then down the road, Jennifer, certainly not in the next, but is there someone in your office, that can, I know when your predecessor we talked to about, having possibly Faye take a look at that. I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to Faye about it. It's not my spot, and I don't know that she's got the bandwidth to do that either. And that's the other thing. But that's one of the things we were thinking about next step wise is get all the projects on it, and then is that something we want to move forward with? And you may say, this isn't this isn't going to get us that GFOA.
No, that is exactly what it is. What does help us get there, and folks need to start thinking of, hey, I need this new software, or maybe I don't need it, right? Like maybe I want it. If I'm the DPW director, I might want some GIS software that I don't have.
Yeah.
That should go on a request form for
absolutely.
Capital. That's still a capital expenditure, just because it's not a truck, right? And so when in a department head meetings, we've been talking about that. I want you to think about things that aren't an item.
Right, tangible that you can sit on your desk. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
All right, good. All right, so we don't have a quorum anymore. I'm not sure if that matters, but
yes, we do. Quorum is 4.
We only have 3.
No,
Mary's
here. Oh, we have 4. Oh, we do have 4. Thank you, Ray. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, all right. Thanks for clarifying. That's good. All right. Good. So I'm responsible for getting all these notes over to Pete, I guess. That's good, because it's a good discussion. Actually, good discussion. But along those lines, so any further we want to go on that? I mean, I guess, Jennifer, that well articulated, and I think move forward with what we have, what you put out there, and we'll deal with these guys as they come in, if they're going to be prepared to have those discussions with impact on operating budgets.
Yeah, I think Jennifer's suggestion of kind of the interim solution of here's a form and make sure you address the following points in your response is fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's points that came in from others. I know, Chris, you added a couple. I don't know if you want to try to pull those all together and just send the aggregated list to Jennifer.
Yeah, I can do that.
I have both emails now.
What's that?
I have both emails.
Okay, all right.
Do you also think it would be helpful for because I'm assuming that at your next meeting, you're going to start getting presentations from department heads. Should they be prepared? It would be like a PowerPoint presentation be helpful for them to show you, what we ended up getting almost at town meeting, all those rusty pictures of the equipment. Would that be better to get up front?
Well, I guess in our process, when they submit those requests, if it's equipment related, what we do is when we had a full committee or almost a full committee, we would split up into 2-person subcommittee teams. And 2 people would take the DPW, 2 would take public safety, 2 would take town hall, 2 would take the school. And that was kind of the way it worked, and have meetings with them. Go visit the DPW yard, to touch and feel everything. Look at the requests for replacement. Here's the other stuff going down the road, and they would bring that stuff back before meeting with the actual department head, because we want to be sensitive to their time too. I mean, obviously we don't want to take up too much. It gets a little bit, everybody's got their opinions. That's the thing. That's the beauty of a finance committee, is it's a committee, or a capital investment board. It's a board, so you got different opinions. So sometimes you're going back a couple of times to that department head. If that's, if it takes those types of things, we'll certainly request that. I mean, that's not uncommon. But again, I don't, I think that's their discretion too. I mean, right? I mean, am I wrong on that, guys? I mean, you folks, I don't think we want to be requiring them to, sit there and, I can't picture Anna Shaw up in the catacombs taking pictures of her, air conditioning unit or something like that, and saying, here's the problem. You see the leak, I guess what's in my mind, what's more consequential is, how's it functioning? What's it costing? This is finance. What's the end of the life? What's it going to return to the town? What's it going to cost to replace? How does it help productivity? So how does that fit in? If pictures help with that, sure, but.
Well, at some point they'll have to make a presentation. I guess the only real question is, when is that going to happen? I think to your question, Jennifer, normally it's, Chris, when do we normally get to the individual departments?
It's usually March, February, March, late, middle February, early March. So we can come up with some recommendations, or it can sometimes be March, April too, for the Maytown meeting, because we're not going to the select board until late April, usually, with recommendations.
It's also a function of when we actually get the capital requests, which is not the same time every year.
Right. And we try to do both at the same time, Jennifer. Just, we try to go over not only their capital requests, but also look at what's changed in their operating budget line items and what the reasons are for that. We can certainly change that up if we think capital needs a longer timeline for discernment. But it's, I think it all depends. Whatever they can get to us the earliest is great. We'll take it in fragments if need be. That's fine.
Yeah, one department at a time.
Yeah. And one of the challenges sometimes is the schools, because they seem to have their, and not that they have their own way, which is fine, but that's getting our arms around that can be a little bit, and they've, to be perfectly transparent too, they've criticized us for not being, well, we never hear from you guys, we don't know what's going on, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of a communication thing. So we're trying to repair. We've been trying to repair that. It's back, when Ray was chair.
Yeah, that damn guy. Jesus.
Well, no, Ray was the one that started the reparation process. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's just been back and forth, and again with different people.
Yeah, just one functional note. Their capital budget subcommittee meets later than other departments, I believe.
That could be.
From a communication standpoint, if that were to happen earlier, and I'm not sure it's practical for them, as it's kind of weaving it together with their operational budget reviews. If that happened a little bit earlier, it could be more in step with the other departments. I just don't know if that's feasible.
Yeah, well, I can reach out. I can reach out to Mr. Pedoni and ask him if that's possible. I know they've had preliminary meetings, but I think that's just preliminary, and then it has to go to the full board. But I'll see what the timing is on that.
I mean, thankfully, a lot of projects that were on FY24 did get pushed up, and we dealt with them early in the fall. So,
lucky you. That was all you're doing, by the way.
No, that was just myself.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I don't know, as you're planning for the next meeting, and it might make good sense, is if I could just talk quickly on the ADA transition plan request of this board.
No, sure.
ADA transition request. You're gonna have to explain what that means first before you tell us what it is.
Sure. So Americans with Disability Act, we had a self-assessment completed of all of our, not only municipal buildings, but municipal programs, and things like the website, meeting postings, things of that nature. So we are close to having a final ADA transition plan. The ADA transition plan is both an offensive and a defensive tactic, that having a plan and working towards full compliance can be a defensive posture for the community, but can also help us to plug in when we're doing a project on XYZ building, make sure we take care of this item and wrap that up into that project. So the Collins Center also are there. Nancy had actually started this. She obtained a grant to do this work. The Collins Center has gone around and identified deficiencies at our municipal buildings. The last step in the Disability Commission's responsibilities to getting a final plan before the select board is to take the items identified and plug them in somewhere into our capital plan. Or say that item is never going to happen. We're going to ask for a variance or a waiver because the costs are just such that it's economically infeasible. So I have the document. It's pretty large, so I have to share it. I can't attach it. You have to, click through to a folder to get to it. But if folks want to take a look at that, and then possibly, Chris, in January, if maybe part of this discussion on capital, we can look at plugging these timeframes for either work or suggestion to ask for a variance on these things. If we could start that in January, that would be helpful.
Good. Do you have costs associated with that as well?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. So
Will you expect to get any?
No, I mean, there's some items that you like. There's some items that are literally move this toilet paper holder 5 inches forward. That's, literally. There's some items that are completely reconstruct the ramps leading in and out of the schools. So we know hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But if there was, let's say we were doing an upgrade to a building and we already had that plugged into a capital plan, well, then we're going to fit that into where we're already doing some kind of work. So, for example, tangible example, the library project. If they install their heat pumps, if you're looking at the front of the library to the left where there's kind of the chillers outside in a concrete area, they have some ramp issues at the library. So when we do that project, it makes sense, since they're already going to be tearing up that area, to tie together the ramp upgrades.
So would it take a whole meeting to look at this? I mean, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, probably one whole meeting just to look at the ADA transition plan. Okay.
But I'll share it with folks right now, just so you can read it at your leisure and see, even some things are ridiculous on a brand new building that's only 3 years old. That there are any deficiencies is shocking. But there are.
No surprises. No surprises. Commercial construction. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Well, all right. Well, we'll definitely do that, and that's one that you would like to be at. So I don't know what your schedule is. How's Monday night for you, schedule wise? I'm afraid.
Oh, sure. Sign me up.
All right.
She's all in, Chris. Any night of the week, anytime.
Yeah, that's the one night you don't have.
Just no Thursdays. No Thursdays.
Yeah, no Thursdays. All right. So January Mondays are the 9th, the 16th, which is a holiday, so that's probably not going to work. I don't know that we can do that. I know we've had issues with meeting on holidays before, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're not allowed to.
Yeah. So 9th, 23rd, 30th. How's everybody look for those dates?
I have no obvious conflicts.
The 9th, I probably have to duck out at 7.
Okay.
That's because the first Monday that month is the holiday as well.
Oh, come on. It's the 2nd if the first Monday, Mary.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I know, but that's a legal holiday, isn't it?
Okay. All right.
Is the 16th a legal holiday?
Oh, I was talking about January 2nd because it falls on a Sunday.
Oh.
This Martin Luther King Day, I think that is.
Yep. Well, it certainly is in the state. It's recognized as a state holiday. A federal, I don't believe it is. Well, banking, because I remember the bank was open. No, bank was closed. That's right. The bank closed. We lost Patriots Day for that. That was right. Yeah. That was it. All right. Well, do we want to shoot for those three anyways? And Mary, you
Sure.
can be diligent and at least give us the first hour and on the.
Yes, I'll get you a quorum for the first hour.
Yeah, that would be good. That'll be helpful because I think we're going to probably need those three anyways. So I'll send around invites.
Chris, my memory is terrible. It just seems like it's a little front weighted. Do we have specific subjects that you're expecting we need to hit on those?
Well, I guess maybe the 9th we can get kind of an update as to where the capital is, because I think Jen, you want the requests back by the first week in January, right?
So I gave department heads in October. I didn't give them the form because it wasn't done, but I gave them Northbros and I said, pretend that it's going to look a lot like this and write it down so that when you get the form, you can just plug it in. So I gave them a soft deadline of January 1st with the anticipation that everybody should really have been thinking about this and working on this since October. Now we know that some are probably been more diligent than others in that effort.
Okay.
So I think you'll have some that are done.
Okay. Well, maybe, so if we want, then we can make that short. Ray, if you're worried about tying up all your Mondays, I mean, we can look at, possibly passing on the 9th and just doing the 23rd and 30th. That way we'll probably have a better idea, and then maybe devote one of those meetings to the ADA transition.
I'm happy to follow your lead. It's just a question of, do we clear on, in speaking in general terms, what we're trying to get at each of those meetings? But you can go ahead and book them, and if we don't need them, we can just cancel them.
Yeah, well, I think one of them, obviously, we're going to be, looking at, okay, where are we going to be assigning coverage for the departments, as far as what finance committee members are going to be doing that. So I'd like to get that done, and that shouldn't take long, but I think this, and then if there's some requests that have come in, we can certainly dish those around. I'll certainly clarify where things are with the schools, but if it's a short meeting.
When do we expect the first pass on the fiscal 24 budget?
I've heard nothing.
Late January.
Late January?
No, late January.
Okay.
Just as a preview for that, I'm not asking them to do a level fund budget this year. Level service, no level fund.
Level service, okay. All right.
When the recession hits, we'll talk about a level fund when the recession hits.
Yeah, which will be, I'm sure we'll be talking about that at some point. So why don't we do the 23rd and 30th right now, and we'll see how that goes. If everybody's good with that, Jen, perhaps you and I can get together before that and just kind of go over this ADA thing, because I want to get my arms around that
Sure.
a little bit. See what that's.
And the consultant may be available. I can talk to him and see if you're interested in having the consultant present to discuss his findings. I don't know if that would be helpful or not.
Yeah, I'll take a read through first and see how much fun that'll be.
All 183 pages.
Oh, God. Yeah, wonderful.
And then they know they don't get paid by page.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to offer a premium for a shorter report.
That's right. You would think. All right, so I'll send around invites for the 23rd, 30th. We'll probably put that ADA on, well, depending on, maybe the agenda won't follow till, I'll give you a week before or something to see how capital requests are coming in. But the 23rd, we can think about just what your passion is for an area of town that you want to spend time with the directors, which is always fun. Always fun. And then let's see where we are after that. Maybe in January 23rd, we'll have a better idea as to how February looks for everybody too. And we can schedule out at that point. I don't want to tie up too much, but we'll try to keep to Mondays. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you have conflicts with that, let me know earlier rather than later. That would be great. Because Monday looks like it's the day of choice. Unless anybody wants to go Wednesday to the Affordable Housing Trust, see what that's got, because that proves to be almost as much fun as this.
A cardiologist says I really got to keep the excitement down. So
Yeah, that's right.
Pass on that one.
Okay. All right. Any other business to come before? Hearing none.
Nope.
Move to adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That's Ray's aye.
Aye.
Paul aye. Mary aye. Great. Thanks very much. Chris aye. Unanimous. Jen, thanks so much for your time.